I'm feeling ready. Are you ready, Michael?
I'm ready to go. Excited to
Wonderful.
jump in.
Yeah, so let's do this. So first off, thanks everybody for taking the time to join us. I know you're all super busy. For some of you, it's lunchtime. For some of you, it's past dinner time. So really excited to share with you the insights. We released this study in December of last year, but we want to give this as sort of like an overview of our findings. It's a very meaty piece of research. So we surveyed 1,200 consumers, and we'll share with you our insights here. But before we do that, we'll tell you a little bit about GatherUp, also why we actually did this research. There's a lot of research that exists in the market and what motivated us on doing our own. Then we're going to break out the findings into 3 parts, and then we're going to have our concluding thoughts. I know this question comes up all the time. Yes, the session is recorded. Yes, the slides will be made available to you, but we will share it with you next week. As you know, all attendees are muted, but you are more than welcome to interact with us using chat in the questions toolbox. We actually have Brittany here that's helping us moderate some of these questions. I'll be keeping an eye on it. If you see me looking off to the side, it's not that I'm distracted. I'm just trying to see what folks are writing. And we want to keep this interactive. We have a couple polls as we're going, so we'd love for you to share your thoughts and answers. All right, so our presenters today, so we've got Michael Yules. He's our CEO here at GatherUp. He's been with the company for more than a year. Michael, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. A little bit about myself. So I spent my career accelerating the growth of software businesses in a couple of different industries. And as Mel, you mentioned, I've been here for a little over a year now. It's been really exciting to spend that time getting to know many of you in this industry in particular, and appreciating the impact that reviews and reputation have on local businesses, digital marketing agencies, and our economy overall. It's become very clear to me that reputation matters, and I'm really thrilled to be a part of helping businesses build, manage, and defend their reputations online.
Great. Well, thanks for that, Michael. Actually, I see here a chat from Paul. I want to address that before we dive into the presentation, but I want to talk about me just a little bit. So I'm Elatia. I'm the VP marketing here at GatherUp. My career started in 1997 in digital marketing. I've seen the rise and fall of many search engines, Lycos, AltaVista, then Yahoo, now Google. And I'm actually really keen on seeing the future of search with Search AI coming into play. But before we dive into the presentation, Paul kicked us off with a doozy of a question, which is, does your team know why the last few days, weeks, Google has been removing legitimate customer reviews from business Google pages? In some cases, stores losing as much as hundreds. This is actually a known bug. Google actually posted about it. They're trying to fix it. Some of these reviews have not actually been deleted, but they're somehow not getting counted properly. Miriam Ellis, which is a well-known local SEO author, wrote a blog for us, which we just published. Brittany just shared it in the chat. But basically, this seems to be a bug, not something intentional. Of course, Google does do clean out of reviews that they feel are dubious several times a year. So it might be some kind of coincidence between the two, but it has been reported as a known issue. So we'll just go ahead and dive into our presentation. So Michael, take it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Mel. I was just going to also add that to your point, Google routinely removes reviews that violate its policies, including those that have been identified as fake or incentivized. So really important for folks to pay attention to how they are generating reviews and making sure that they are following along with Google's terms of service. And this happens on a regular sort of semi-annual basis where Google will go through and remove what it believes to be fake positive reviews or reviews that break their guidelines. Unfortunately, Google doesn't really provide a list of removed reviews or a way to restore them unless they're removed in error. And so you can find more information in that blog post. And really excited to talk about this topic with you or anyone else through Q&A or outside of the webinar as well.
Great. Thanks for that, Michael. All right, so we're GatherUp. we're the one platform you need when it comes to reviews and reputation management. Michael, tell us how we're redefining the whole space.
Yeah, and just if you go back to the slide before that, I just wanted to dive in and give a little bit of background on GatherUp as the leading proactive reputation management software for digital marketing agencies and local businesses looking to what we call proactively build, understand, manage, and defend their reputation online. Ultimately, we want to make sure that that local businesses are ranking well in local search, generating more leads, converting more customers, and also understanding what their customers are saying in order to improve their customer experience. And so, as Mel mentioned, we see ourselves as the one platform that you need when it comes to reviews and reputation management. And then as far as how we're redefining reputation management, we're working with digital marketing agencies like yours to offer a wonderful, white labelable platform that can be easily branded to your agency's identity and be a part of either your do it for you or do it yourself arsenal of solutions. And we think we're really redefining reputation management by approaching it, making customer feedback the center of your business's or your client's business's flywheel. And so we help request and monitor feedback and reviews. We help you understand and derive insights from that content, first and third party, engage with and market to your prospective customers through review widgets and social media, and also implement changes to improve reputation and business operations over time. So we're really creating this flywheel where feedback becomes actionable insights and critical business improvements to create more happy customers and a better and more thriving business. And as far as the last sort of slide here, don't want you to have to take our word for it. We're loved by thousands of agencies and businesses around the world. You'll notice there aren't any agency logos on this slide, and that's for a good reason. We see ourselves as a secret weapon for local SEO and reputation for these agencies. And as I mentioned, oftentimes work on a white label basis. So want to make sure we're respecting that. But we are proud to count many brick and mortar businesses amongst our distinguished clients. And so today, I'm really excited to dive in and talk more about our research and our findings that hopefully is helpful for you and your customers. So I'll pass it back to you, Mel.
Well, thanks for that, Michael. So we're going to hop in with our first poll question. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch it. So if people can just take a moment to answer the following question. So does your organization currently practice proactive reputation management? We'll just maybe leave 15 to 30 seconds here for people to answer. I'm really happy to see that it looks like a vast majority of people practice proactive reputation management. This is so vital, and our data shows that this is just table stakes now. Reputation management is not just a nice to have, it's a must have in today's world. For those of you that don't know, we're hoping to arm you with a lot of great data so that it can help you bring forward that as a new add-on to the services that you have to offer to your clients. All right. Oh, we already have a question here. Do we want to go ahead and take a look at it? So we know that 78% roughly of people on this webinar practice proactive reputation management. That's great. But let me take a moment to answer a question here. So we have a question from Kevin. Are there any plans of incorporating expanded options in the CX space outside of NPS scores? Expanded meaning the ability to customize questions and gather data throughout the client journey rather than just at the end of the journey. So this sounds like a product specific question. Michael, do we want to take this one offline or do we want to answer right now?
Yeah, I'm happy to maybe circle back at the end and answer the product specific questions, but I appreciate this one, and Brittany, if we have the specific person, we'll be happy to follow up on that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So Michael, why did we do this research?
Yeah, so we did this research first and foremost because reputation really does matter. And we wanted to make sure that we dove into it and understood it and continue to share this information with all of you. Buyers today have access to much more information. So 60% of consumers are taking 6 or more actions before deciding to buy from a brand or a product or a service that's new to them. And so reviews and content online is really, really valuable to that. And 75% are searching specifically for reviews and information, which means making sure that your presence online is reflective of your business, your values, your customer experience is going to be really, really valuable for consumers to make decisions. And then last but not least, 18 times is how much more likely highly confident consumers are to recommend a brand to a family or friends. And so we really wanted to make sure we dove in, understood, and were able to educate you all on understanding how consumers use reviews, leverage this data, and make decisions with it. So ultimately, if you have more reviews, you have a higher star rating than your competitors, you are going to stand a better chance of outranking them. And that's really, really important, not only for you as a digital marketing agency in order to help your clients rank well, but also for the end business and local businesses more broadly in order to grow their customer base and have a really thriving, healthy business as well. So really excited to dive into the insights and learnings that we've had that'll help support you all as a digital marketing agency as well as the local businesses in their missions.
Great. Well, thanks for that, Michael. Okay, so how did we do this survey, right? Methodology matters. We collaborated with Miriam Ellis. We ran this survey late in December 2024. We had 30 plus multiple choice questions along with supplemental demographic information. We gathered 1,231 survey responses. What's great is SurveyMonkey allows us to do a census balanced survey based on age and gender. And this was restricted to continental United States, but Americans tend to be, in line or at the forefront of consumer behavior on the internet. So we like to think that this is a good look at essentially how people behave online. So let's talk about the impact of local reviews on consumers. So our survey shows that 99% of our respondents or US consumers read reviews. They take the time to read reviews, and this is almost always or frequently will look at reviews. And what's interesting is folks trust at 85% at various degrees the reviews that they have. What's really interesting is although 99% of people read reviews, 21% of them said that they completely trusted them versus 17% saying that they don't trust them at all. So it's still really interesting that they will consult reviews, those that don't trust them at all, since they're part of the 99% here. And then when it comes to reviews, it's personal recommendations are still, at the forefront. 45% of people trust personal recommendations the most. But what's really interesting is that 31% of respondents said that they trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. So here, what the data tells us is that if you offer exceptional service, this will in 2 ways help your business. It will fuel word of mouth, but it will also increase your online reputation online. Again, we asked folks what platforms they trusted the most or would consult when they were looking at reviews. And of course, no surprise, Google is at the very forefront. What's interesting is there's a difference between doing business with an organization, so a local business or a service, and then also reviews when it comes to products. So of course, Amazon is the leader when it comes to product reviews. But what's interesting here is that Google's at the forefront with 67% of being the most trusted. And then Yelp is behind by about 25 percentage points. And then it goes to Facebook, TripAdvisors, and then we've got all of these more niche sites that are there. So what will be really interesting is how this will change over time with Search AI taking more and more space. And we have some insights coming in as to how you should be thinking of Google versus the other platforms out there. We think you need to have a balanced approach at not just sending people to Google reviews. It does matter today, but we think that down the line, having a diversified base of online reputation and reviews in different websites is really important. I see we have somebody that has a hand raised. It would be great if you could ask that question through the question toolbar through the chat, and we'll get to it then. So for the role of review recency, we asked, when looking at reviews, what do you look at first? And this was really interesting in seeing how they actually interact with the reviews. They could select more than one option. And so 68% of people said, I want to see the most recent reviews. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Google and others, what they'll do is they'll try and show you the most relevant reviews, which might not be the most recent one. And so folks immediately will look at the star rating to decide if they're going to actually look at the review and then click to see the most recent. Then they're going to go to the most critical reviews and then look at the highest reviews. Very few people didn't interact. It's actually fewer than 11% didn't sort through the reviews, and the actual overall star rating had an influence, but not as much as we thought. So what this tells us is businesses need to have a steady stream of fresh reviews. If your most recent review is several weeks old or even months old, that sends a signal that things might not be going well for that business. Like, why aren't they having any new reviews added in this place? And then after that, since you're looking at the lowest score reviews, how you respond to them or don't will have an impact on their decision to do business with you. And of course, people are interested in hearing those that have praise and are very happy what they're happy about. So it's not just about having a high star rating, but if there's a nice detailed review explaining why you have a raving fan, that's super helpful as well. Now, we asked folks here, when do you read reviews? Is it much in advance or immediately before? And almost half said they always read reviews before a transaction, even if it's not necessarily new to them. So this is something that they go back to. And what's interesting is we also asked them, how many reviews do you actually read on average? And most folks said that they would form an opinion after reading 3 to 5 reviews. So that's really interesting. So with that, I'd love to know how many reviews you actually read before engaging with a business that's new to you. I'm going to go ahead and launch the new poll. Just a second here. So number of reviews, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can launch it. I don't know if it'll let me. Interesting. I don't know why it's not letting me ask the question. Maybe it's because I didn't close the other one. Okay, stop sharing. Maybe it'll let me now. Yes. All right. So if people can just take a moment to answer the question. Yeah, you know what?
And
sorry.
No, that's okay, Mel. I was just gonna.
It's fun just to look at the data move in real time like that.
Platforms that customers trust most. I'm sorry, can you hear me okay? Or
I think you cut out a little bit. Do you want to repeat that for us, please?
Sure. There's a question from Jamie around Bing and ChatGPT and whether or not that was coming up with regards to platforms that consumers trust most. And I just wanted to add some perspective there to your question, Jamie. I think we'll learn more as our survey runs for this year and we update the data. But what I see in the market and from my own personal experience is that ChatGPT is really great about linking to sources, and those sources are oftentimes the platforms that you see listed here. So TripAdvisor or Better Business Bureau or Trustpilot or Angie's List or things of that nature. And so what I would say is that they're going to continue to use all of the data and the partnerships that they can in order to source recommendations and more information to provide the best experience possible. And so ultimately, I think that folks will decide whether or not they want to trust the algorithms behind all of these generative search engines. But the underlying data is going to be coming from these platforms that are collecting reviews. And ultimately, it comes down to how much people trust those underlying platforms.
Fair enough. Yeah. So actually, what's really interesting with this poll is 88%, sorry, my math there was a little bit fault. 88% said that they read 3 or more reviews. That is amazing. It means that you care about the purchases that you do and you care about where you put your money. And so you make sure that you're really, really informed. And I would say that your behavior represents how most folks now approach online reviews and reputation. All right. So what about other platforms, right? So social media. We actually asked these folks what other platforms they were looking at when they were considering a business or looking for a recommendation. And it's an important part of the buyer journey. More than half said that they would look at Instagram, 42% said that they looked at TikTok, and 40% said that they looked at Reddit. Again, this is just proof that user-generated content is highly trusted, it's sought after, and that should be a part of your strategy when it comes to managing your online reputation. So when it comes to building trust and authenticity, as we know that only a fraction of consumers fully trust online reviews, there are things that you can do that will help boost authenticity. And having photos in the reviews goes a long way. Sharing pictures of the experience. So if you're at the restaurant, encouraging folks to share pictures of the plate or the menu helps a whole lot. And it also has some SEO benefit of having images because now AI can scrape the data that's out of the photo and kind of classify what kind of place it is. But what will erode trust is when businesses use canned responses. So one of the things that we asked in the survey is, how do you feel if you suspect that a company is using AI to respond to reviews? And 60% said that they distrust AI-generated responses. And if you put yourself in the shoes of the person that left you a thoughtful review, to have a canned response given to you after you've taken the time to really reply and give feedback that's supposed to be valuable and authentic, and you have a thanks, right, generic response, and it's the same response for everybody, it discourages people from even wanting to give you a review. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few slides. So what you want is people like to see what other people are talking about in their review. They want authentic responses back from businesses when showing gratitude or addressing concerns. And Michael will actually touch on how many business interactions with thoughtful reviews can actually impact loyalty and the desire to engage with the business later in the presentation. So another question that we asked was, what's the minimum star rating you're willing to accept to engage with a business? Fewer than 3% said that it was okay if a business had fewer than 3 stars. So again, that's 97% of people that would just not even consider the business, not even look at your listing at all if it's so low. Most folks need at least 4 stars. And so again, they demand quality. They want to have a good interaction. And we actually published a blog in December breaking out actually by age cohort, their expectations. And what was really interesting in that blog article is we discovered that the youngest generation, so the 18 to 25, were the most tolerant of having a poor score. It's not that much bigger than 3%, but it was really interesting to say that they didn't care so much about the star rating as the older folks did. All right, so what are your key takeaways from this first part of our research? You need to build a diverse and authentic review strategy. Of course, today, important to focus on Google because it's still a big driver for local businesses, but it's really important, especially if we're looking at the transformation of search with Gen AI, to not ignore other platforms. It's really important that you establish your reputation across the different places on the web. You know, one really interesting thing that I saw was G2 and Capterra have lost a lot of traffic to their directories right now. And a lot of B2B businesses were very reliant on them to get traffic for and to build demand for their products. But now that they've been they get a lot less traffic from Google, it's having a direct impact on these companies and driving revenue. So of course, again, diversify, right? Make sure that you have review generation happening across multiple websites out there. And the third takeaway is to really emphasize on review recency and authenticity. And you do this by keeping a steady stream of reviews with people who have recently transacted with your business. Now, in the next section, which I'm about to talk about, I'll tell you exactly when and how to ask for those reviews to get maximum impact.
And Mel, if I could just piggyback on what you were saying around Google and not ignoring the other platforms.
Yeah.
And especially with generative search, what's really important for these models is consistency and building an understanding, right? And so not only the value of showing up on multiple platforms, but the value of having a consistent message from your customers tied to your business's name on multiple review platforms is going to help it create a very clear understanding of you, your business, and the value you deliver, so that when there are, results related to local search in the future or anything, there's a consistent understanding and ability to comprehend and influence and make decisions just the same way that our brains work as well. So it's going to be really, really important and is really an exciting opportunity for businesses to shape their reputation in the eyes of these models.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. Thank you for that, Michael. All right, so let's talk about the core habits of local business reviewers. What really astounded me in this research is 83% of respondents said that they sometimes or almost leave reviews, which is wild to me, because if that's the case, why aren't we just barraged with new reviews all the time, right? If truly 83% of people want to leave reviews, why is that not an ongoing thing? Well, the challenge is they forget, right? About half said, yeah, I want to, but I forget. They used to do it more in the past, and now they're busy. But what really surprised me was they said that about a third of businesses just don't ask. They just don't ask for reviews anymore. And so I think that that's a massive opportunity. I know, Jamie, it's real. I mean, 1,200 people answered. I think that we have a pretty good statistical balance here. But yeah, about a third of businesses aren't asking at all, or maybe they're asking in a way that's not being noticed. Some folks say, oh, I've reviewed most of them already. Some of them are pretty jaded and say, well, businesses don't respond, so why should I bother? Like, I take the time to write you a really thoughtful review and then I get nothing in return. So people expect some reciprocity there. What's really astounding too is that 42% of people said that they hadn't been asked to leave a review in over a month. So this is wild. Again, this is a big opportunity for us to leverage. And so when is the right time to ask for a review? Well, 66% of people said, if you want me to leave a review, ask me the same day, right? Ask me when the experience is still fresh in my mind. And almost 50% said, at the time of service, I want you to ask me to leave a review for you. And then most folks then said the same day or next day. So really what's important here is it needs to be fresh in their mind. And I would even push you to consider asking through multiple channels, right? As I'm leaving the doctor's office and I'm being told, okay, we'll be sending you a review request, right? I'm probably going to go on my way. I'm going to go pick up my kid from daycare. I'm going to go back to work. I'm not going to think about it anymore. So what's the best way to prompt me to do it again? Send me an email, right? You've asked me in person, send me an email. You might even want to call me Although for me personally, I don't know for others, but getting a phone call is one of those things that if my phone actually rings for any reason, must be an emergency. I don't talk on the phone, I'll text. So SMS works really well. Folks have said also that they like to be asked on a receipt. So this has probably happened to you. You go to the hardware store, they give you your receipt and say, hey, if you fill out this survey or leave us your impressions, right, you can win $1,000 gift card. Now, if you want to be compliant to the FTC, you can't influence people's sentiment and asking for a review, so you have to do that for everybody. So yeah, try different channels to get optimum results. And actually, we released mid last year a 2023 look at the GatherUp customer base. And we found that when you combine SMS and email together, you get a 23% response rate, which is higher than just SMS or email alone. So just food for thought for you right there. So where do people write reviews? At the time of the survey, folks said, most of them said Google, of course. Folks said also Amazon, but Yelp, not too far behind. What's interesting is that Yelp does not actually want businesses to solicit reviews for them. So that's really interesting. TripAdvisor, Facebook, right? And then in our research, we actually go a little bit deeper. We'll talk about which different local community hubs and industry specific sites. But Google right now is king. So what actually motivates review writers? Their primary driver is to reward great service. So if you sweat the details, you make sure that it goes really well. 72% want to say to the world how great their experience was, and they see this as a way to encourage your business. Now, what's really interesting is 60% said, I will leave a review to warn other people of poor service. And they'll even escalate. 31% of them said that they would share unresolved complaints. So how do you deal with this? How do you avoid having your reviews online be where people air their grievances and wash their dirty laundry with you? Well, offer them a mechanism to give you feedback. People prefer to give feedback that's critical in private. Our platform, GatherUp, we actually have a way for you to ask for first-party reviews up front so that you can give them an opportunity to share what would be more critical, and then you can send them to the third-party website. We're not saying review gating here. Everybody has the same opportunity to go and leave reviews, but folks generally tend to be nicer if they have the opportunity to go and say, okay, this is what I didn't like. I didn't have a way to escalate this. Now you're giving me an opportunity to give you my critical feedback. So when they're sent then to Google to leave a review, they tend to be a little bit softer on the edges. So offering the opportunity to give that critical feedback in private is highly valued, and we highly recommend it. Actually, we see here, I got a comment here from Kevin that says, when we disperse checks with our clients at the end of the case, we ask and use kiosk mode on a device in the office, which we know is a luxury, right? You couldn't have more in the moment than that on their way out. But if they don't respond to that, following up by email or SMS or whatever channel you've pre-established to communicate with your client is a great way to do it. Now, let's talk about review spam warnings. So Google does this, other websites do this. What happens when folks see spam warnings? Well, 38% told us they would choose not to do business with that company at all if they see a flag. More than 10% said they won't write a review for that business. They won't recommend the business to friends and family. And what's really interesting is if someone mentions the business to them and they've seen this flag, they go, oh yeah, I saw a flag. Yeah, I wouldn't do business with them. So the impacts are not just on the site, but there's seepage with offline word of mouth. So here, we repeat this all the time. You have to avoid unethical review practices. Focus on earning genuine trust. Even critical reviews, even negative reviews, if you handle them well, there's positive impacts that can come from that. And Michael will go in it in a few slides, but it's really embrace having a not perfect reputation. How you handle the critical feedback publicly is really important and will have an impact. So takeaways for this. People want to leave reviews, but they need reminding. If you have the luxury of having a kiosk on-prem to have people leave reviews on their way out, great. But if you don't, make sure that you train your folks to actually let them know that they'll be requesting a review, put it on the receipts, and then don't be afraid to follow up within the next 24 hours using the channels. We highly recommend email and SMS. Make it, of course, ridiculously easy for people to leave their reviews. Most are motivated to reward great service, but if they didn't receive a great service, give them an opportunity to flag that to you in private, because most people will only use reviews to air grievances as a very last result. And avoid engaging in bad review practices. It's not worth it. All right, our final poll question today, and this time I should be able to do it appropriately. Does your organization use software to help with reputation management? If you just take a moment to answer this question for us, we would really appreciate it. We'll give it another 30 seconds. And this next section will be taken by Michael. Yes, Michael.
Perfect. And while we're waiting, we got a question from Andres in the Q&A portion of the software. And so we'll gather up allow to send 3 to 4 emails and 3 to 4.
Oh, I don't know if it's just me, but I think Michael cut a little bit there.
I'm so sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So the question was, do we allow for multiple emails and SMS within the same campaign?
Yes, and the answer is yes, Andres. You can send a full campaign of requests in order to generate feedback and third-party reviews, as well as reminders thereafter.
Yeah, we have a cool workflow tool. Works really well. All right, so let me go ahead and the poll. Okay, so this is really interesting. Less than half said yes. Less than half said no, and some folks said don't know. So a lot of you said that you did do reputation management, but then you're not using software. That's not super scalable or effective, right? There's a limit to manually requesting and asking. There's probably some time savings for you in there. Any reactions to that, Michael?
No, I think you're right, and it depends on the specific workflows and specific goals and outcomes that you want to achieve, and the type of solution that you're trying to provide for your customer. But there's certainly efficiencies to be gained by using software, and that's a trend that we've seen over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah. All right, Michael, take it away.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for the intro portions, Mel, and I'm happy to round it out with this third portion around the power of responding to reviews. And so ultimately, there's a lot of influence from owner responses to reviews, and we call it a game changer. And there's 3 main reasons why. The first is just common sense. People like to see that you're responding and you're engaging as a business and as a service provider with your customers. And so it goes without saying that people appreciate it. The other reasons are really data points that we have here. 82% of consumers will choose businesses that actively respond to reviews online. So there's data behind that. And then 92% believe that responding to reviews is part of customer service. And so it's a really important part of the customer lifecycle and making sure that you are engaging authentically with your customers. So the main takeaway here is that review responses aren't really seen as optional. They're seen as really integral to building trust and loyalty from your customers. Now, we also see review responses as an amazing opportunity to turn complaints into opportunities. And so there is a path to redemption in review responses. And so we see a couple of interesting things with our research. The first is that people appreciate thoughtful responses. 73%, almost 3/4 of people will give you a second chance if you respond thoughtfully. Over half will update their negative reviews after resolution. So there's nothing like nothing better than going from a 3 or a 2-star to a 5-star if you're able to make sure that you effectively respond and address the complaints or issues with the reviews. And then most people won't return. So 59% of people won't return if they are ignored and their complaint is not responded to. So that is a really staggering stat in terms of customer retention, which is a really important part of running a successful and healthy business, whether you're a service provider or offering something else. So there really is an awesome opportunity to redeem yourself if there is a complaint or a bad opportunity, and we'll help you build a better business. Now, as far as positive reviews go, so we'll talk a little bit more about negative reviews here in the next couple slides, but as far as positive reviews go, personalized replies to positive reviews, we found built goodwill and encouraged further positive reviews. So if you get kind of the energy feeling positively on your Google business profile or elsewhere, then you'll see sort of a snowball effect. And 73% of people appreciated acknowledgement of positive feedback from the business. And we really love this example from Pods, where they got a 5-star review, and they had a little fun with the response around, complimenting the drivers themselves from the business's perspective, which is another really great way, especially if you're having people be named in reviews or things of that nature to celebrate your employees and your teammates. So really love this response and the fun that they had with that compliment. Now, as far as the risks of ignoring reviews, there is a high cost of silence. And so 59% of people will not give a business a second chance if they don't respond to their negative review. That makes sense, especially in a place where you might frequent very often. You might be missing out on 60% of former customers if you're not responding to and ignoring their comments or feedback online. And then word of mouth, as we talked about, is becoming more and more important and beneficial. There's research saying that, trust in reviews is declining over time, and word of mouth is becoming more important. That's, you see different data points all the time, but ultimately people will tell others if they are having a certain type of experience, and 44% will tell others if they're being ignored by the business. So that is not going to be beneficial and not going to be helpful for your clients and your businesses if others are talking about you ignoring them. And then last but not least, about a third of people will actively seek out competitors if their reviews are ignored. And so, I like to think about the cost of ignoring reviews and negative reviews in particular as really lost revenue opportunity. And so if you think about it, and say you have someone who is, maybe a plumber, and they are replacing hot water heaters, and so that's a $1,000 ticket or something like that. And then if you think about it from a per month and searches perspective, say you might get 500 visits to that Google business profile or search results. And then you think about the number of people that filter on negative reviews first, especially, we saw it in the comments earlier, we saw it in the data, around half of people will filter based on negative at some point. And then, you assume the ticket size of that service being $1,000. If you can improve the conversion rate there by 5% by responding to the negative reviews that half of people are looking at first, then you can increase, the revenue per month, according to this math, by $12,500. So there's a really high potential ROI in responding to negative reviews and making sure that you are not ignoring the conversation online. Just the final takeaway I would say is that neglecting negative reviews will really damage trust. It will damage reputation, and it will also have a negative impact on lost revenue.
Yeah, I love that math, Michael. When you walked me through it, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Makes a ton of sense. So we'll actually help people quantify that. We're going to put that to an article so that you can turn this around, and if you need to persuade your manager or your client on the importance of doing this, we'll give you hard data that you can use.
Thanks, Mel. And then, further to the conversation we were having around using software and trying to find efficiencies, there is a big dilemma around the utilization of AI in responding to reviews. And ultimately, we just want to make sure that customers and partners of ours are beware of over automating with AI. So in the data, we found that 64% are discouraged from writing reviews if they suspect that an AI will respond automatically. And so our advice here is as follows. Leverage AI as an assistant to help respond to more reviews and supercharge your ability to really engage with customers on a personalized level. So you can do that in a couple ways. First of all, we've built, and most reputation management platforms will have some sort of response workflow. We have a suggested response workflow that'll help support efficiently kind of getting the review, understanding the context, generating a reply in your voice, because you have the ability to really train and match the AI to your brand voice, and then be able to get that so that you can then process it from there. And what that helps you do is efficiently respond to more reviews, make sure that your brand voice is represented, make sure that you're reading and actually comprehending and understanding what people are saying so that you can make changes based on it, and doing that for more customers overall. And so we really want to make sure that everyone is using this new technology in order to really improve and better their current workflows, which are really important. But make sure that they are not, over automating anything. And that's the second point here, which is, avoiding fully automating and using the same replies over and over again. It's really important to make sure that people don't see that, because it's not a great customer experience. It doesn't make people feel valued or anything like that. There might be logical reasons, like if you're in a HIPAA compliant industry, for example, where you can only say so much, and people will understand that. But if you have the same response over and over and over again, it's going to be concerning to customers. And there's also a question around how search engines will react to that type of content. And so there's some commentary. For example, watching a recent Near Media interview with Brad Weatherall, who was a former Googler focused on the GBP space. And the general consensus is that Google is not going to say that they are penalizing AI content, but they will focus on understanding what is AI generated versus what's human generated, and rewarding and prioritizing human generated content, because no one wants the internet to be full of just fully AI generated content. And so I think that analogy and philosophy should bleed into how you are engaging with your customers and making sure that you are leveraging this tool in order to improve customer experience, as opposed to automating it. Now, as far as building trust through owner responses, there are a couple interesting takeaways that we had as far as this topic. So 69% of people will want to see apologies in responses that are negative, and 67% will want to see value offers that make things right. And then 42% will appreciate contact details for resolution. So this is really that golden opportunity to turn a negative into a positive, and engage with your customers. So there's a fine line between accepting responsibility and diffusing the situation. And so you definitely do not want to, air dirty laundry or have a long, lengthy back and forth argument with a customer on a public forum. And so ultimately, it's best in these situations to take accountability and accept responsibility and ultimately diffuse the situation as best as you can, but then make that value offer to make things right. Customer or businesses that invest in making things right, even when it's not necessarily something that they can control or so-and-so's fault or anything like that. Oftentimes retain customers and create advocates. And then last but not least, offering contact details to have a conversation offline and make sure that you address it is a really common practice and a best practice in order to make sure that customers are getting the service and response that they need, and that future customers are seeing that you're going to invest in making sure that things are right. So this is a really great opportunity to build trust and turn a negative into a positive if attacked appropriately. And then last but not least, ignoring reviews will cost you. We talked a little bit about the potential revenue impact, but from a brand liability perspective in a less quantifiable way, it is really important. And some statistics that stood out to us were, over half of people won't recommend the business if their reviews are ignored. Again, 32% will seek alternatives, and nearly 100 won't engage in with a business that has less than 3 stars. And so it's really important to make sure that you are going back, engaging with the customers that are leaving you feedback and reviews, and trying to make sure that you turn that negative into a positive, which will ultimately help your ratings and help with future customer acquisition. So the hidden cost is lost opportunities and decreased loyalty, in addition to hard revenue opportunity. So in order to wrap it all up, we did this research in order to understand how consumers really think about and approach reviews and review content. And the findings led us to believe that reviews really are the backbone of modern consumer trust, and they are the parking lot that customers will see when they look for your service or another online. And every review is really a chance to meet your next customer where they are and when they're ready to buy. And so reviews, help engender trust and loyalty. And active review management will build long-lasting relationships. Reviews are a chance for second chances, and thoughtful responses can really turn that negative into a positive and into loyalty. Third, it is a modern way of customer service, and so it is an integral part of the customer journey and that flywheel that we went through at the beginning. And so it's important to make sure that you're approaching it in this way. And then last but not least, there are a lot of proactive strategies that you can use in order to drive review acquisition, that people want to be engaged in that way. They want to be asked. They want to be asked in a way that they feel comfortable responding. And personalized responses will drive review growth and turn that flywheel. So really, really excited about the lessons that we learned here, and happy to answer questions and dive into it further. So Mel, I'll pass it back to you.
Well, thank you so much. I would love to answer all of the questions that you have. I saw some great comments in the chat that I'd like to go over. We'll send you by email the link to this article. It's actually on our website. You can find it in the resource center, but good old school QR code in case you want to load that up on your phone. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I want us to take a moment to go through the chat. I saw a cool comment from Kevin here, and it was on how to, well, thank you, Al. Hi, thanks, great summary, guys. Can I use this content in my business materials? Absolutely. Just, what we love, if you do this as an online thing, that backlinks work. If you mention us in one of your articles, you can link back to our page. We would really appreciate that. That's the only thing we ask, is just for you to give us credit on the data. That's all. But anyways, going back to Kevin, he said, we invite the clients to lunch or offer them something of value, not to change the review, but to interview so that we can make our firm better. So that's really interesting. So I'm presuming this is something to do either with legal or real estate. And so these are high value transactions. And so Kevin, if he sees a critical review, he'll invite actually the customer to have lunch so that they can talk this through. I think that's a great idea. Any chat questions that you saw, Michael, that you thought were really interesting?
I think all of the questions are interesting, and I'm excited to answer all of them. But let me just look back as I was speaking. So, Kevin, you asked around GatherUp allowing for input on tone and audience, and the answer there is yes. We actually give full ability to edit the prompt that's used with regards to your review responses that are generated via AI. And so some really cool stuff there, and reach out to support at gatherup.com if you want more information, or we can send it to you after the call as well. And then as far as any recommendations for a highly contentious client who writes a bad review, which may escalate by replying, I think the answer here is ultimately it's a judgment call, but the best thing that I've seen and the best practice that I think people implement to is to at least acknowledge, and again offer the opportunity to continue the conversation, provide contact details, and ask for them to engage. Ultimately, when there is a dispute or a negative situation, people will understand and appreciate someone going out of their way to try to engage in a healthy, constructive way, and not penalize you for doing that. And ultimately, the response that someone who is highly contentious might have to offering a channel to connect, I'm not sure what else they might be able to say if you're offering that chance to talk it through more.
Yeah. Also, think of that interaction as it's public, right? So I don't know about you, but personally, if I look at a critical review, some of them I'm just like, okay, this person is just, their expectations are completely misaligned with what this organization does. So for example, if somebody leaves a critical review at McDonald's because they didn't get any service and it's not a sit-down restaurant, it's like, well, your expectations are disconnected from the reality, and you may not, like, there might just not be any way to disagree. Folks, I believe, have the ability to discern what is like genuine. This is a complaint. I want to work through this and see goodwill on the part of the business. But then if it's like an overly escalated thing, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't win them all, and you have to rely that folks will see the good from the bad, really. Any further questions, or was there any stats that you saw that really surprised you? That you were like, wow, okay, that blew my mind. I didn't think that was going to be a thing. 83% said they want to leave a review. Yeah, they said that's about 900 some odd people said they want to leave reviews. Andres, the slides will be available next week, and all of the data points and more are actually available on that page. So that article that's in our article, in our resource center on our website. Another one, 66% of people prefer leaving reviews on the day of service. That's great to use as a fact, absolutely. Timothy thought that the minor difference between the percentage of people who trust personal recommendations versus online recommendations, thought it would be wider. Yeah, that one surprised us too. All right. Any final words, Michael, before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to thank everyone for joining and thank everyone for the participation. It's been awesome to have the questions in the chat, and really looking forward to redoing this research, sharing updated perspectives as we get them, and then also continuing to have more and more conversations live, and some of the exciting things that we have coming up to talk to you about. So stay tuned, and look forward to seeing you here next time as we do this more regularly.
Yes, absolutely. And Timothy, I saw your question in private about Zapier. We'll get back to you in private to answer you. Can we write a review? I would love that. I mean, we could use that to promote our next thought leadership pieces. We have some really exciting content coming up. I can't reveal it yet because I don't have the synopsis finalized, but more awesome data for you to have coming up soon. Michael, thank you so much for doing this webinar with me. Thanks everybody for staying till the end. It's amazing to see how engaged everybody is. And I'll see you at our next webinar. Thanks, everybody. Take care.